public interest, I wouldn't seek to justify it.
But I'm not justifying it.
I would still want to condemn the Russians and protect us.
I'm going to keep you here until you answer this question, which is, how specifically did the Russians make this election outcome different from what it would have been otherwise? How specifically did they, quote, hack our democracy?
We will never know, whether this was determinative any more than Director Comey's
means
involvement
they
in the election. The means they used were hacking into democratic institutions and the leaking of documents designed in the primary process to sow division between the Clinton and Sanders camps, something we saw actually took place as a result of that. And then in the general election to attempt to discredit Secretary of State Clinton in a way that would harm her and would help Donald Trump.
How did they do that?
Well, it was pretty obvious, wasn't it? They hacked, they released documents that were
real.
Oh yes, they were real, and they were ones that were damaging to Secretary Clinton. Can you point to documents that they disclosed that were damaging to the Republican Party?
Let's just get to the bottom line. You're upset because you think this affected the election. I get why you're upset. But are you arguing that voters and other reasons, stupid, are you arguing that voters should not have seen that information?
This is an important point, though. It's not just the fact that it damaged the candidate I was supporting. All Americans, Democrats and Republicans, and particularly, of the party of Reagan, ought to be concerned when we have Russia interfering in our political affairs.
But are you arguing that voters should not have had the right to see that information? If you could take it back, would you say voters, you're not allowed to see that information?
Well, I would say that we ought to stop Russia from doing this. Now, whether the press should publish the information or not,
do you think they should?
That is a different question. I think that there are some cases where the public interest is so great they should publish. But I also think, and this was an issue I took with the press during the campaign, that when they do publish information that the Russians have hacked and the Russians want us to see, they ought to inform the public of the provenance of those emails.
But they don't know it, and neither do you. You don't know that. You don't know that the government. I think it's really irresponsible for you to say you know that the Putin government did that.
You know it is irresponsible, Tucker, for you to make that claim without looking at the evidence, and more importantly,
you can't say that you know the Putin government did that.
More importantly, for the president-elect today, to say that he doesn't know whether the Russians. You're
on the Intel Committee. Let me just ask you one final question. Can you look right into the camera and say, I know for a fact the government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of John Podesta's email?
Absolutely. The government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of our institution and the dumping of information.
Of John Podesta's email.
Not only in the United States, but also in Europe.
Okay, you're not. You know what? You're dodging.
And Tucker,
no, look and say, I know they did. John Podesta's emails, they hacked those.
And I think that Ronald Reagan will be rolling over his grave that you're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the Kremlin. You're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked.
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television because
you know what?
This
That's
is perfect.
Just so beneath your office because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous. I'm asking you, did they hack Podesta's emails? And you can't say it.
It's like that, Tucker.
You just said I was carrying. You said I was carrying water for Putin. That's pretty hilarious.
When you essentially are an apologist for the Kremlin, that's what you're doing.
I'm going to one last time, Congressman. Look in the camera and say they hacked John Podesta's emails. We know for a fact that Putin's government did that. You can't, and you know you can't, and you're hiding behind weasel words.
I just said that the
say they hacked John Podesta's emails.
Russians. I'm not going to be specific as to
because you don't know it. That's why. All right, done. One. You don't know it, and you're alleging it without any evidence.
You're ignoring the evidence because you don't care. The fact that it helped the Republican candidate is all you need to know, apparently.
That's totally false. I just think if you're going to make a serious allegation about an actual country with an actual government, you ought to know what you're talking about, and you don't.
I think that you ought to accept.
I got to go. I'm taking cash from Putin now. I'm on RT.
Republicans on the Intelligence Committee have seen for a fact.
If you could say it, you would, and you can't, and you know that.
If you're willing to be in denial about this because it suits a Republican-elected president,
okay, whatever. You can blather on all you want, man, but I gave you a chance to state it clearly, and you wouldn't, which tells you everything you know. All right.
Or a president.
Okay.
Not very much, apparently.
I appreciate that, Congressman. And now I need to take a call from Vladimir Putin, so I'm going to put you on hold for 1 second, do this tease. Some of the electors who will pick